Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the XGain Podcast series. I'm Urania Dean from Reno, the partner responsible for maximizing the impact of XGain. XGain is a research project that aims to bridge the digital divide between urban and rural areas by facilitating access to last-mile connectivity solutions. In today's episode, we are honored to have August Betzler. August is a senior research engineer at Ep.2, and today we will have a very insightful conversation regarding the Knowledge Facilitation Tool, which will be the main result of the project. Hello August, and thank you for being with us today.
Hello Rania, thank you very much.
So to start, what's your role in the project?
So I'm the technical manager of the project, and I am also responsible for the tasks that define the reference architecture of the tool that you mentioned, the KFT. Ep.2 also has been leading one of the 6 use cases of the project.
You mentioned your involvement in the design of the Knowledge Facilitation Tool, also known as KFT, as you mentioned. Can you explain what this tool is?
Yes, so with XGain we are contributing to closing the digital gap between rural areas and more densely inhabited areas. Unfortunately, in rural areas it takes much more time for state-of-the-art technologies like 5G to be deployed, and in general the digitalization of services is a very slow process. So with the KFT, which is a web-based tool, we aim to support the rural actors to have this supportive tool with which they can identify technology mixes and solutions that can allow them to implement those digitalized services. And the KFT also provides an assessment that is tailored to their actual needs.
It's really fascinating to see that we have technologies and tools tailored for rural communities. Now, what are the key features of KFT and how these features can address specific needs of rural communities?
Okay, so what the KFT does is it takes a variety of inputs from the users regarding the role they have, the assessment level they are interested in, the sectors and services they are targeting, and additional details like the target location or the end devices that they want to deploy. The KFT takes all of those inputs, and with the help of 6 underlying models that are there for assessment, it produces a series of outputs. So in the first place, it produces a technology mix proposal together with an assessment. The assessment is for technological, economic, social, and environmental aspects, and how those different technological mixes are impacting these factors. And then it also provides, so the user can then choose which of those factors are more relevant to them. So it gets a very adapted solution. And on top of that, the KFT provides a business model which is based on the combinations of sectors and services chosen by the users.
I can imagine that accessibility is really crucial in these kind of tools. How do you ensure that non-technical users can actually use the KFT and benefit from it?
Yes, so user-friendliness was one of the main requirements that we identified early on in the project, because simply many rural actors don't have the technological understanding or knowledge to use a complex tool. So what we decided is to use a natural language exposed in the dashboard to ask the users questions and obtain the feedback. On the other hand, of course, the KFT requires as many technical inputs as possible. So we had to find a trade-off between questions that are easy to understand and still provide us with the required complexity. So what we did is basically implementing a user-friendly language together with examples and tooltips that provide context and information to the questions and views of the dashboard, so that the user can interact easily with the dashboard and the threshold to use it is much lower. And of course we added things like self-explanatory iconography and a simple design to make the KFT more accessible.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine that developing such complex tools requires a lot of testing and validation. Can you share how you're validating the KFT throughout the project?
Yes, so we have basically two lines of validation. The first one involves internal testing, where we use the 6 use cases of the project as inputs for the KFT. Then our use case experts and the technical experts were able to contrast the outputs generated by the KFT with the actual pilot deployment. And this allowed us to do two things. First of all, we could identify where the KFT needs improvements. And on the other hand, we were able to look at the outputs and derive if maybe the use case scenarios can be improved or optimized in certain ways. And the second line of testing involves the external stakeholders. So from the very beginning of the project, we have been involving rural stakeholders in our activities. And we already got a lot of feedback from them as we used a mock-up of the KFT to introduce the tool to them. And it was very elaborated so that it was very close to what we actually have now in this improved version that we use currently for evaluations. And basically, by exposing this improved tool and with this initial feedback that we got, we already were able to integrate a lot of feedback into the tool. Of course, in this final phase of the project, the last year of the project, we will be able to obtain much more feedback by the users that are simply using the tool on their own.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like the KFT is progressing quite well. You mentioned that you have received a lot of feedback from the end user, so that's very positive. As the project evolves, what potential improvements or updates do you foresee for the KFT?
Okay, so we have to consider that the project only allows for major changes to happen until November 2024. With that, I refer to changes to the technology mix finder, the assessment, and the business model proposer. And after that, we can still do changes, but they will mainly be bug fixing, improvements to the user interface, or fine-tuning the models that I just mentioned. On the other hand, we also don't foresee any major changes to the KFT, really, because, as I said before, from the very beginning of the project, we have been involving rural stakeholders. They have provided us a lot of feedback in the workshops and webinars about the tool. And as such, in the design of the tool, we already incorporated the feedback from over 80 stakeholder groups. That means that we have a very solid baseline for the KFT.
We really look forward to see the positive impact of the KFT and of the XGain in general. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Also, thank you all for being with us today in another episode of the XGain Podcast series. Till the next time, don't forget to follow us on social media and visit our website. Together, we turn the digital divide into a digital bridge. Stay tuned.